ounces. First 12 ounces, yeah. First 12 ounces. First 12 ounces, yeah. Y'all better listen up. This sports talking tough. So if you got a cup, go on and raise it up. I'll raise one with you as we talk about the sports. It's raining stats and rumors. Let us give you the report. This is first 12 ounces. First 12 ounces, yeah. First 12 ounces. First 12 ounces, yeah.
What is up, everybody? Welcome back and happy holidays. Hope you enjoyed your Christmas. New Year's is coming up as well, so hope y'all have a happy New Year's. And let's get into it. We're going to cover the bowl games that happened while we were on holiday hiatus. And let's start with our favorite team, well, one of our favorite teams to shit on. Let's start with OU and Navy. 21-20 Navy win. And, I mean, Navy's QB just kind of shined. He had, I think it was 90 something yards passing and 100 and over 100 and something yards rushing.
Yeah, it was like 100 and 130, 140 yards rushing, I believe, if I remember right.
With a record-setting 95 longest touchdown run in Navy history of 95 yards from one end of the end zone to the next. And just things are looking horrible at OU. After the game, or did it happen before the game when the DC decided to leave?
I don't know. I'm
trying to recall. I wasn't sure if the DC decided before or after. I don't remember now offhand.
I know it's a dumpster fire.
Decision made before the game. I don't know if he announced it before or after the game, but I don't think that was like a spur of the moment. We lost the Navy winning.
Yeah, absolutely. But man, like Buddha just said, what a dumpster fire going on there. Your OC's gone, your DC's gone, you're replacing your quarterback, you're replacing the majority of your wide receivers. Like,
right? No, I think they're going to be one of the worst teams in America next year. I'm not even being facetious.
I agree with that. I think next year if they get to 4 wins, it's like how'd you get?
Yeah. No, I think 3-2 wins is really like realistic for them. And the biggest thing with them is it's like first and foremost, you see some OU fans, you see some of the people that maybe aren't betting on Brent Venables yet that are like, we had a bunch of freshmen playing and stuff like that. Well, first off, you have freshmen playing because everybody transferred, not because you got 20 guys waiting to get drafted. All right. So that's like your bad players on this bad team from last year got the hell out of Dodge. And then the next thing is looking into next year, your transfers coming in. It's a quarterback from Washington State and a bunch of FCS kids in a very bleak situation where the whole world can see that, like, Brent Venables is gone. If he didn't get extended this past year, he would have gotten fired. Coming into this season, there was a lot of critics, not just Longhorn fans, a lot of critics nationwide on his extension, regardless of whether he got more money or not. A lot of people viewed it as just like unnecessary. Why are you doing that? And, you see the way that they're moving organizationally. You understand they're not a major power. I'll throw out Texas, but like Michigan or Ohio State or Oregon, these schools that have a ton of money and a ton of backing, they're not that. I'm not saying they don't have any money to throw out at anybody, but they just seem like they're 4 or 5 years behind the 8 ball on a lot of stuff when you look at other teams around the country. I'm not just talking about national champions. I'm just talking about competitive teams around the country and how they've operated. Oklahoma's not operating like that. They look smaller. They look very unorganized, undisciplined. They had like 20 drops. You learn to catch the football before you get to college, or you shouldn't be playing at Oklahoma. Like 20 drops is crazy. So it's just they have some really inexcusable. And then I posted on my Twitter a long thing on Brent Venables' career at Oklahoma. He's like 6-20 versus teams with winning records. His conference record is abysmal. It's like 13-20, something like that. I'm kind of throwing numbers out there. I don't have it in front of me. I posted on the Twitter the exact numbers. It's been bad. It's not good. You have one winning season. You're 1-2 against Texas. 2 of the biggest blowouts in Oklahoma history in that game. And if Sark wasn't nice, if he was like Bob Stoops back in the day, the game 2 years ago, we could have scored 80 points. Like we had like 35 at the half. We could have easily scored 80. I don't see where it's going, and I don't think that it's like a situation where they have the kind of money or resources to bounce back very quickly at all.
I mean, you can look at the SEC just in the conference, and you can name 10 teams that are better than them without really having to really make an argument for them. I don't know how they get to. I think realistically next year they're a 2 to 4 win team. Because this year they only got to 6 because the defense had some players on it. Like the defense had some guys that are going to be pros. I don't know who they have next year that's a pro. Like that. Like that's what I look at, and then it's hard, even if you are one of the teams in the playoff right now, to replace two coordinators and two coordinators and a quarterback. It's really hard when you have no identity. Like I don't know if we can sit here and name what is OU good at right now. Like what do they do well? I don't think we can name a thing. I think last year going in, you could name that they turned the ball over on defense, and that kind of kept them. That got them to 500 in the regular season. But next year, I mean, they're horrendous.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like
like
they're bad everywhere.
their defense literally won the game for them. Yeah, like it scored the touchdowns, won the game. You know what I mean? Like that's not sustainable. It especially the way you're recruiting and the way the whole program looks. Like you can't keep churning that out.
That's the thing, dude. I mean, you look at other teams in the SEC that we would consider as struggling programs, like Florida and Auburn. You would have to say Florida and Auburn are both in a better spot right now. Like you would rather be a fan of either one of those teams.
Easily.
Vanderbilt's bringing back Pavia. They're clearly better. Like they're in a better situation. Then you look at like South Carolina's made this up. It looks like Mizzou looks like they've entered to be in a consistent top 25 team. And then like you get into like that second tier teams where it's like the Tennessee, the LSU, like the only team really like you have to make the argument for like maybe Arkansas, but I still like Arkansas more. Then like they're not even in the breath right now of like being in a Texas or a Georgia or an Alabama is currently as we sit today. Like they're not even in the same atmosphere.
Yeah.
Right.
I would say they're not even the same atmosphere as LSU and the other teams.
I would agree with that. I would agree with that.
They're like a struggle to get to that third tier, much less the second tier. The second tier they can't touch. I would like the embarrassment that LSU put on them was one thing. I mean, their win over Bama was, hey, it happened, but you play that game 5 times, they win probably 1 out of those 5.
But realistically, like you look at that game, they still threw for what 60 something yards. Like Milroe, it was the defense.
Yeah.
Like now, like what do you do, right?
Yeah.
And that game's not in Norman next year.
Yeah, and I'll say this: I think next year's Brett Venables last year at OU.
Right?
Like drives the year. But you know, and like the teams Buddha named are great references because around the country, you see teams like Vanderbilt, Indiana, Georgia Tech with the new NIL and the new way of college football all around the country. Not just your LSU's, your Texas's, your Bamas. You see these schools that traditionally were a baseball school or a basketball school or whatever. They have the resources. They got money, they got backing, and now they're weaponizing it in football and in the transfer portal, and they're competitive. Indiana's in the play. Vanderbilt could beat an SMU. It could, you know what I mean? Like Vanderbilt's good. They got Pavia coming back. They got money. They got a great alumni base. They're in Nashville, which is badass and awesome. You know, all of these places around America, you can look at and you can see some type of light at the end of the tunnel. Where even like if you're a young aspiring coach, like that's a great place to go be at and build a program. Oklahoma, when Brent Venables goes, another question is who's kicking down the door to take that job in the SEC?
I see happening, I didn't mean to cut you off, but what I see happening with Brett Venables, if Brett Venables exits, I think they're going to put Bob Stoops in until they can find somebody to fill.
I think that might be their only option. That like
I don't see another avenue because I don't see a coach that looks at it and goes, I'd like to go there, unless you get somebody who's a failed experience somewhere, like when Kansas got Les Miles. Like unless somebody like that opens up on the market where it's like he went somewhere else or it just kind of fizzled out and he's got to plop somewhere. But like, I mean, I kind of feel bad. Like I kind of feel bad for the fan base. I mean, like, there's nothing to look forward to. They're horrible.
if there's anybody that deserves suffering, it's them. Not really, and that was like why I feel like it's important to point out the fact that Oklahoma is 49th in America in education, and that's you can Google that. That's graded on like test scores, graduation rate, who goes to college, things of that nature. They're only behind Mississippi of all 50 states in America. I mean, Hawaii, they do nothing but meth and heroin in Hawaii, and they're lapping Oklahoma in education. So it's like when you go back and you dozens of screenshots and tweets of Oklahoma fans that were tweeting out how many receipts they were keeping coming into the season, it kind of explains what you see all the time in that fan base. They like an uneducated people. I'm not trying to be an asshole here. Well, take it if the shoe fits, but like they're oftentimes the most arrogant, the most out of touch, the most unaware, and it all kind of circles to that. And you're like, makes sense because they were the last people on earth that saw it coming. And what
everyone else did.
is Dylan Gabriel over there in Oregon?
Everyone else saw it coming. Everyone else was like, this team might be 6-6. They might be 6-6.
Yeah.
You said it all off season too, and the only thing you were nice about in the beginning of the season was probably because of how confident they were. Like, all right, give them the benefit of the doubt. Like, I heard you say things like that where it's like, oh, I mean, I'll give them benefit of the doubt. Like, because at the end of the day,
I think the thing I kept looking at, I was like, I just kept thinking, like, Jackson, Arnold was a 5-star. Like, that's not an accident. Like, he was a good player. I still think he's a good player. I'd like to make that very clear. People on the pod don't know this that are listening, but I had sent a text in our group message. I was kind of on board with LSU making a run at Arnold to be the backup for a year. Like, I think he's a talented player, and I knew they could turn the ball over. So I figured they might better sneak a few and be a top 25 team. But after I watched them play Tennessee, I was like, yeah, I don't see how they get to. I didn't see how they got to 6 wins because I didn't see them beating Alabama, right? Like that. Like when I was looking at the schedule, I was like, they're going to win 5 games, which they probably like. It's a miracle they won 6.
Yeah, no one saw them beating Alabama. No,
yeah, it's a miracle they did. Like when they got to that game, I was like, they're going to finish 5-7. It's a miracle they beat them.
Yeah. Last thing I'll say is they have to be really like. I don't know, it's already really bad as we've clearly discussed for the last 11 minutes, but guys that they brought into this class, like a Michael Fasasi, if he doesn't make it to the fall before trying to get out of there and get somewhere else, which I think is a very, very high possibility, like that's when DEFCON level 5 hits. Like, do you get Venables out and Stoops in now? Like, do you do something now? Because your whole program is showing that they're not believing.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with that too. Let's move on to our next favorite team to shit on. USC and A&M. 35-31 USC with a comeback win. It was just, I mean, it is what it is. It happens. And I mean, this is probably, I think, Buddha's favorite fan base to shit on, newly into the SEC because of the way they react to everything. But how about Mike Elko's press conference after the game where he was just like, we can't stop the forward pass. We can't stop anything. If they're throwing the ball, we can't stop. We can't cover anyone. And that's my fault. I mean, credit to him for taking responsibility for it. But a lot of that sounded like somebody being Shoney you're used to, and Charlie Strong being a defensive coach, taking over as a head coach, and not being able to get it done.
And not having like the temperament. Like if you think about it, really great defensive coaches all the time are these super intense dudes. They're the ones that get you pumped up pregame. They're jumping, slapping helmets, headbutting helmets, doing things like that. I'm not saying he's doing all of that stuff, but oftentimes they're that mindset. Defenses play fast, play violent. You know what I mean? And the coaches oftentimes embody that. The temperament of a leader of a program, of a head coach, like oftentimes the Charlie Strong stuff, even the Brent Venables, or you can go to the NFL at Dennis Allen. The post-game press conferences of bad losses are oftentimes almost as bad as the loss was.
You can't be a good defensive coach. You can't do it. Look at Dennis Allen. Dennis Allen's just a skinny Mike Elko. Like when you look at their temperament and how they walk around the sidelines. And here's the difference when I look at A&M and I look at OU. I look at OU and I go, they don't have dudes. A&M's got dudes. Like, they got that can play. They got Sunday players. Like they got early first round guys on that defense.
Yeah.
But I don't know if it's Elko's fault. It's just A&M. Like they were 7-1 at one point. And they finished 8-5. Like that's just what they do. They'll never get out of their own way. They'll have 4 to 5 losses every year for the rest of my life. They'll blip up one time and go 10-2 and sneak into a 12-team playoff and get boat raced by Penn State or something. Because they're just not. That's just who they are. They're a team loaded that can't win, and they'll be like that forever.
Clip that. That's spot on. Because literally, like every time they post a transfer announcement, the receivers, everything like that, I just comment 8-4. That's what I comment every single time. 8-4. I don't care if they announce that Randy Moss is coming in tomorrow. Like 8-4.
It doesn't matter. Like, look at the recruiting class they had 2 years ago. It's the best recruiting class that ever happened, and it's the best recruiting class that will ever happen. It looked like you were playing NCAA. They signed like 7 of the top 20 guys in the class.
Mm-hmm. And none of I don't think any.
We signed KC Concepcion. It's like, I don't care.
Yeah.
You yet to prove that you can win with talent. Like, I don't care.
And also, like,
you'll go 7-5. You're waiting for. Good for you.
Him. Like, I'm not saying he's not going to do good. I'm not saying I didn't like him. I bet on him on Prize Picks many times, stuff like that. But I've seen dozens of him in the ACC and Big 12. You know, you got guys like, what's the guy, Quentin Johnson, that was at TCU, the kid from Temple, that struggled mightily in the NFL and stuff like that. Like, it's very oftentimes the case. You're playing in these schemes against bad defenses in the Big 12, the ACC, these tiny guys, bad defensive coaches, bad everything, bad programs, and you put up crazy high school numbers. This isn't the ACC and Big 12. You're coming to the big bad SEC. And then with A&M, like, they're the Branch Davidian. They're like, it's just what can go wrong will go wrong, and it's all oil money and stuff, and they operate their football program like that, like they're always trying to strike oil. Like that recruiting class was that. Now that the stories have come out after the fact and all that, a lot of people have said that Jimbo Fisher offered and put up a lot of money and did a lot of stuff for guys that never came in and visited, guys that they never vetted out. They don't know what they're like. They don't know what kind of teammate they are. Their coaches gave them bad words for them. Didn't care. They said he was 5-star chasing. Just every 5-star, let's get them all around the country. And it imploded. It's just like that oil mindset. Just dig. Maybe we'll strike oil. You're not going to do it like that. There's a formula to win in college football.
Yeah, absolutely. I think to start the season, the Notre Dame game, I was like, all right, we'll see what Elko can do. And Notre Dame went in there to Kyle Field, which everyone was like, advantage A&M, because Kyle Field is an atmosphere that's unbeatable. And A&M went in there and was like, no.
Well, it's very beatable. They sing their songs about Texas, and it gets loud because they do it in unison, but it's beatable.
It's not hostile, it's loud. It's not hostile, it's loud.
Nobody's scared of those milkmen paws, but that's what they do. Like, nobody's scared of that. Like, you're going in, it's loud, but it's kind of like loud, like a soccer game loud, where they're all singing the same song and it's in cohesion. You can kind of probably get your snap cadence and all that stuff together because you can time that kind of shit out. Like, it's not Baton Rouge where you think you might get stabbed if, like, you don't got your security on you. Like, it's not Lubbock.
Like, hostile environments are tough to play in. A&M's not a hostile place, and I know they're going to be in my comments going, LSU lost there. True. Nuss shit down his leg. There's no other way to put it. But it's not. That's just this is who they are. Like, I don't know at what point, and I know we're going to hear this stupid bullshit next year, so just get ready for it. They're going to be talking, and my least, ESPN's going to talk about it. Like, you're going to get national media that's going to continue to blow up and go, this is a dream job. Like, this is the job. This place it's a sleeping giant. It's a dead giant. The giant's never going to wake up. It died in 1939, and it ain't never going to wake back up. Like, that recruiting class we're talking about, I don't think they have but maybe one guy from it still on the roster. I think they've all transferred out or whatever.
Yeah.
It's like the clip that Kirk Herbstreit did a couple years ago when they were in the car with Bear and everything else. He's like, why are we talking about Kyle Field like it's something that it isn't? We talk about how great Kyle Field is in the atmosphere. And he's like, hey, nothing against their fan base or anything like that. He goes, but they don't win there. They don't beat big teams. They don't. They beat one big team there this year, which was LSU.
But even then, it's like it plays out where it's like LSU wasn't as good as we thought they were. Like every time they beat LSU, they beat like a transition LSU. They beat an LSU like after the year after Burrow leaves, or the year after Jaden Daniels.
Like they beat Burrow in his first year in 7 overtimes, and there's like multiple plays in that game that the game should have ended. Like Kellen Mond's knee was down, like they fumbled the ball and they didn't review it. Like,
and what did they do after? And what did they do after that win? They made fucking cups, like it was a
ups, and they sold them in the stadium the next year over a regular season 7 overtime win against a team that played for a Fiesta Bowl.
Yeah, they made a to-be-determined replica national championship for Jimbo. Like, they always just piss the sports gods off. They'll go out of the way to do things like exactly what you're not supposed to do. They do it. They don't know how to win. Dude, 2 seconds after the Texas game, they're fine. Like, they are the biggest losers. I mean, they're the best losers, rather, of all time. Like, I don't get it. It's a disease in the branch of idiot. Like, they can just move right on and go back to whatever they can find to look forward to win. Like, I saw people the other day, like, it's 3 weeks out and like Texas fans are scared to talk about it, but we got a basketball game like 3 weeks from now. I'm like, who the fuck is thinking about Texas and Texas A&M basketball right now? They're just the biggest losers.
They're also oblivious to it. Like, they'll get mad. The fan base will get mad and go, what, are we not supposed to cheer for our team?
Yeah.
No, but you also aren't supposed to act like you have a current dynasty going on.
Yes.
Act like they are Georgia. Like, when you talk to, if you pulled an alien and dropped him off in College Station and let him talk to A&M fans, he would leave and go, oh, they must have won 10 of the last 20 national titles. Like, this has got to be the best athletic program in America. And then you go like, no, they win meat judging competitions, literally. And they don't win football. They don't win baseball. They got punked by the other school in the state on their baseball team. Like, they don't win anything.
They're a meat judging school.
Yeah. All right, let's move on. We literally spent 20 minutes shitting
Oklahoma softball
on 2 teams. But hey, I'm not gonna say like kind of what to end it out. Kind of like Shoney says, I'm not gonna say Elko's a bad coach or a bad fit. It's his first year. And he did okay. He did the Aggie standard, which is 8-5. But let's move on to a more disappointing end of the year for Colorado. BYU came in and just looked like a superstar team.
It looked like the A team versus the B team, or JV versus the varsity, from start to finish. And, you know, the big thing, it's one thing to get pushed around, and they got pushed around for sure, and BYU looked in fast forward, and Colorado looked in rewind. I get all that, but they're very undisciplined. All around the board, and they have been for 2 years. Incredibly undisciplined. And Dion, like at the halftime, they interviewed him about a lot of the undisciplined stuff, and his answer was like, "Oh, that's just discipline. That's easy. That's discipline." It's like with the like, yeah, no, everybody understands that's bad discipline. How do you get them disciplined? The one thing I'll say about it, Shadur Sanders, you know, he's clearly been like the QB1 for the last few months, and what I kind of want to address the room on that. He's the QB1 by default because all the other guys that were supposed to be QB1 didn't get the job done. Whether it's Quinn, Carson Beck, or the list goes on, Milrow, many guys. But a lot of those guys were playing in a much more challenging conference week in, week out, with a lot more NFL players and better coaches on the defensive side of the ball to challenge you and bring out the worst in you, rather, you know, like they're supposed to do, as opposed to playing your career in the Pac-12, the new Big 12, which is just the Pac-12 and Mountain West combined together. And I'm not saying I think Shadur's bad. I do not. I think he's a great football player. I think he's clearly way better than his recruiting ranking. He's clearly way better than any of us, including myself, ever thought he was going to be. But the idea and the narrative that's going around kind of being forced down everybody's throats, like this guy's Andrew Luck, like a lock on the box. I saw the Giants getting bashed all Sunday long because they blew the number 1 pick and might not get Shadur now. The guy's not Peyton Manning. Like, he might be good, but he also might get drafted to the god-awful Giants and be terrible and undisciplined. I've watched him turn negative plays into more negative plays like dozens of times. I mean, I see this guy take like 30-yard sacks, or it'll be like a 3rd and 12. The play's completely dead. Just throw it out of bounds, and he'll throw it up in the air and turn it into a pick 6. He did that in the bowl game. Like there's things that Shadur does. Not to mention he is going to bring an attitude and arrogance and just the idea that he deserves something that he hasn't earned yet. Like at every level, you got to earn it again and again and again. The cliche that I hate because so many people say it, but rents do every day. That applies, and they are kind of outside of Travis Hunter represent the opposite of that in every way. It's like they expect this. And I don't know. They get it served to them every single time they play a physical football team that's big and physical and can push you around on the line of scrimmage. That's what it looks like. It looks like JV versus varsity.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and honestly, I was thoroughly impressed with BYU and their play calling and their game plan. I was just like, man, okay, this is something. They're getting stuff done. And then one person that stood out, I think, and probably moved up a little bit in the draft board. I still think he'll be a super late draft pick for Colorado. Is Shiloh Sanders? He had an awesome game. He was making hits. I think he had 2 picks,
He had,
one call back.
he had some bad plays too, and like his problem is celebrating on like plays where he's flagged on or
He's
like he
like the
does.
definition of undisciplined. Like,
He I'll just come out and say it. I fucking hate Shiloh Sanders. Like he is so like this kind of this entitlement I'm talking about that this team kind of reeks of a little bit. Shiloh is like the epitome of it. Like he
yes,
makes it times. He brings his pads. I'll give him that. Like he's not scared. He brings it. He does stuff like that. But he's not an All-American or even close to it. And if his last name wasn't Sanders, he will be undrafted. Like, and he still might be undrafted. I think he'll get a bone thrown at him. But the guy is not an NFL safety. And he walks around, drives cars, acts like an NFL safety, like he's an all-pro. And then the stuff like that, like his little dance he was doing, and they turned around, looked for the flag, and it was coming. You knew the guy gave you a piggyback ride, and you still like it's just like you're immature.
I think he gets drafted to the same team that Shadur does late. I think he's like a 7th-round pick to the same team because they pulled the card of like he needs to come with him.
I saw Nick Wright today, not to get there, well, it's not off topic. He was talking about this thing, and he was like saying the Patriots could trade out of number 1 or trade Drake May for another top 5 pick. That's what he said. He said they could trade Drake May for another top 5 pick, draft Shadur number 1, draft Travis Hunter with the other top 5 pick, and then fire Jared Mayo and hire Deion Sanders. And he goes, that's something that's not out of the realm of being an insane thing.
Yes, it is. It's crazy.
That is the most insane cockamamie situation I've ever
Also,
heard.
why would you, as an NFL team, want to hire a failed college experience? And it's not that it's failed in college, but it's like, why would you want to hire a trio that never won anything? Like, this is the thing with Deion. I think Deion can be a good coach. I think he's a better coach than people give him credit for. But it goes very, like, people never discuss it. He's never won anything as a coach. They didn't win the Celebration Bowl when he was at Jackson State. Like, they lost that game. Like, and then you got blown out in your bowl game. They had a chance to make the playoffs this year, and they shit down their leg. Like,
I know. And imagine if they did. And also, it's like, it's not an insane thing. It's a first-year coach and rookie quarterback, and they love the quarterback. Like, Drake May looks like he'll be really good. He has his bad moments, but he looks like he'll be really good. But, like, it's not insane to think that this NFL franchise that has more Super Bowls than anybody in the league and all that stuff, our whole childhood's, like, the dynasty of our childhood would fire their first-year coach and rookie quarterback to replace him with Deion and his kids? The fuck are we talking about? That's what, like, that's why I said the elephant in the room and the forced narratives and the propaganda. We could be objective about it. We could say, yeah, they did way better than all of us predicted them to do. They won more games. They almost got to the conference championship, but also they're not like elite. It's not an elite program. Shadur, I guess, technically is elite, but like we'll see. He's not the greatest quarterback prospect we've ever seen in our lives. They're put on that pedestal, and they're talked about on that pedestal, and they're just clearly not. If they played a playoff game against any of the teams, it would have been what Oregon was to them last year, like maybe worse.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, let's move on to the next one. We're gonna move on to LSU's bowl game against Baylor. Y'all play not tomorrow. Y'all play New Year's
Yeah,
Day, right?
tomorrow. We play
Y'all
tomorrow.
play, okay,
Tomorrow at 3:00.
got you.
Or today. I guess when this comes out, it'll be today at 3.
Yeah. So Tuesday at 3, it'll be out. Yeah, for sure. So a lot of things have been moving on. I didn't realize both of your tackles are setting out.
Yes.
Did not realize that. Changes the game a little bit. I wish I'd have known that before I made some bets that I made, because I put some money on your boy Caden Durham. So hopefully it still pays out. But we'll see how it goes. I mean, LSU would mark a 3-game win streak on this after coming off of a 3-game lose streak that kept them out of the playoffs. Baylor's on a 5-game win streak, so like it seems like everything's kind of rolling for them. This is the first time these teams played since 1987, which I didn't
long time.
did not realize that.
I don't know. Baylor barely has anyone not played, right? Like I think they have two guys who are in the portal that played for them, and like essentially no sit outs for the draft. LSU's got 4 meaningful guys. 5 really. You got 2 wide receivers, and you got the 2 tackles, the tight end, and then Sage Ryan. But like Sage really wasn't a good player on the back end of the defense. I don't know. I still think LSU's better. Neither one of the teams, it looks like, are going to be able to stop anybody. This game, I think, could get to like 45-38. I think it's going to be like a fun New Year's Eve bowl game. I think it'll just be a ton of points. I think LSU needs to win. I think getting to 9, I think if LSU loses, it kind of, the excitement right now is the portal class has been really good. You seem to be on the right trajectory, blah, blah, blah. Nuss is coming back. I think if you lose, you don't want to enter the offseason with that sour taste. But I also think like some of the guys sitting out, like I think it's probably a good thing. Like those 2 tackles were not going to be here next year anyway. Like I think it's a good experience to get 2 new tackles in there and kind of see what you're working with. I don't know. I know Sawyer Robertson, the quarterback for Baylor, has been pretty good this year. I still think LSU's going to be able to move the ball because Baylor's been horrendous on defense. Yeah. I just think it's going to come down to who's got the better dudes, and I think LSU's probably got still the better dudes. Just hat on hat, I think LSU's probably more talented.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the best thing that Baylor's got for him defensive wise is Jackie Marshall's one of the top run defenders in the nation. Other than that, I mean, their quarterback does have a running game. He ran for 277 yards and 4 touchdowns on the ground. So we'll see if they kind of throw that in there because that kind of has given you hiccups throughout the year. But I like you said, and I think everybody agreed to it. I think y'all got more dudes on y'all's roster that's gonna just outperform them at the end of the day. But we'll see. It's gonna be an interesting one because honestly, Dave Aranda has nothing to lose. He's playing his former team. He's gonna throw any and everything he's got at him because he's gonna want to win just to not really best them, but just to say, hey, you know what, I beat you. But we'll see. I mean, it's an interesting game. Like you said, I didn't realize they were sitting out until today. I saw it today and I was like, wow, okay. I figured.
Yeah, it's them 2, Kyron Lacey, C.J. Daniels, Sage Ryan, Mason Taylor, are all out. I mean,
yeah, but
it's going to be a heavy LSU crowd.
But those guys are going to play in the NFL. Baylor doesn't have anybody sitting out because Baylor didn't have any NFL players on it.
They don't have. It's a young, not well-ridden team, right?
Yeah.
Where got 4 or 5 guys that are going to be pros next year.
Yeah,
I'd be a liar if I said I watched even a snap of Baylor football this year, but there's a reason for that. Like, I think LSU is going to out-athlete the shit out of Baylor. And I think they'll out-coach them. Like, listen, we can judge Brian Kelly on the scale of the standard of LSU and the standard of the SEC. But Brian Kelly and his entire coaching staff versus Dave Aranda and that Baylor coaching staff, this ain't even it's not close. It could be close. It could be like, I'm not saying Baylor won't find any offensive success or find some holes in the LSU defense. Maybe they will, but I don't think they can get a stop. Like, I think you could cash your Durham bet. I think that this is probably a great matchup, and if you look around how the SEC versus the Big 12 has done so far, I think it'll continue. I think that they will just have too much man, too much speed, too much strength for Baylor to keep up with.
Yeah, I think this game's probably tight. I think both teams get north of 30 points. Is what I think. Like I think the over will probably hit in this game. And there's going to be a lot of I think LSU is going to play relatively free. I think LSU feels like they're playing with house money right now.
Yeah.
Where I feel like it's a logo win for Baylor, right? Like this is a
Yeah.
logo game for Baylor. It's not a logo game for LSU's never going to win this game. It'd be like, remember when we beat Baylor? This is a game though. If Baylor wins in 3 years, they'll be like, remember when we beat them? Like it's a logo game for Baylor.
Yeah.
It's a game
like
for
I said,
LSU and Nussmeier to play with what they're going to be playing with next year.
Yeah, it's very important.
Yeah, and like you said, I think this is a momentum game that LSU wants to win for that momentum of that they got off of the portal to carry them into the offseason. And a loss is it's not good, but it's not going to be terrible anyways. Like it's just going to be kind of okay, we lost. No one's going to hang their hat on. Oh, everything's falling apart now because we lost to Baylor. No, I don't see it like that either. I think it's kind of a momentum game. It's a game that y'all want to win for the momentum, carrying y'all to the offseason to follow up with this.
I'll tell you what helps LSU is that it's a New Year's Eve game in Houston, which is the biggest alumni base of LSU. It's going to be an LSU crowd, and everyone's got the next day off of work. So the crowd should be pretty good, which usually in bowl games, the crowds usually suck. I think the crowd's going to be really good tomorrow. I think a lot of people are going to be like, yeah, I can get after it today with alcohol.
Yeah, absolutely. I know Bo's, of course, heading to the gym, so let's cover Notre Dame before he has to exit on us. Notre Dame, Georgia. I think this one's going to be closer than most people think, just because I think Notre Dame's got everything to play for, and Georgia's kind of like, hey, we got a backup quarterback that's coming in. Let's see if he can get it done. He only played the second half of the SEC championship. He had maybe 2 to 3 drives. He looked like 100% in control and really good. Now let's see what he does on our full game. How are you feeling about it, Bo?
I think really the biggest thing here, I mean, and we kind of touched it on the live. It's really just going to come down to experience here because I mean Kirby's been here, he's done this kind of thing, so he's going to know how to adjust against Marcus Freeman, and I don't think it's a very hard system to crack with Freeman. They look for a lot of slants, a lot of curl routes, a lot of short stuff. Riley does not like to throw the ball deep, and if nothing else, they're going to try to punch you in the mouth with the ground game. And they do have, I mean, 3 very serviceable runners, and Leonard Love, who's coming to his own this year, and then we've got Price, our fucking bowling ball, coming up the tail end of that. So. I think Kirby's going to game plan for that. Probably going to stack the box a bunch, and they're going to use their athletes to catch the edge on us, make sure we don't get any big runs off. But if Love keeps to how he's been all year and can average about 4 or 5 yards a carry, hopefully in this game, maybe break a couple off, I mean, I think we have a real good shot. So, but I do believe it's going to be one of those okay, here comes Georgia, but it's going to be like a typical SEC beat the dog piss out of one another the whole game, and we'll see who's got the heavier punches at the end of it. So obviously going to be cheering on my Irish, but I'm nervous. Don't get me wrong, but I don't know what Georgia's going to be able to do offensively is my other thing that I've been wondering because I mean. I know the kid they've got under center now. I know he was a 5-star. I've seen a lot of people hyping him up, saying he passed Trevor Lawrence in his high school records. But again, y'all, it's high school football. You're at that next level. Sorry, you got to pitch those to the back. Got to pitch those to the back end and start stepping up. Got to make a name for yourself now, not for what you were. Yeah, you got your offer. You committed to your school. Shut your mouth. Play football. I mean, you got to start making a new name for yourself. So.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the one thing Georgia can lean on, if ETN got enough rest through the bye week, and he's 100% because he's kind of been shaken up. He didn't play much of the SEC game because he was still, hampered with the injury that he had all year. So we'll see how he does. How are y'all feeling about it, fellas?
I picked. I'll go quick. I already did it. I picked Notre Dame on the TikTok. I'm gonna stick with Notre Dame now. I do anticipate a dog fight. It's a 1.5 point spread or whatever. I anticipate a dog fight. I see a world where Georgia can out athlete Notre Dame and maybe their speed overall overwhelms Notre Dame. That's a world where that could happen. But I picked Notre Dame because of the Gunnar Stockton factor. I think Notre Dame's defense is really good. I think Riley Leonard's better than Gunnar Stockton. Gunnar Stockton, Saban went on McAfee and he made a point how they didn't change their offense when he went in and stuff like that. But Gunnar Stockton had 12 completions for 74 yards. He was throwing screen passes and not pushing the ball down the field at all. He had one pass where he scrambled out of the pocket and he made a pretty good pass along the sidelines. But he also made some of the worst passes I've seen a kid make all year long, like the last one that should have ended the game for them. It should have been game over Texas. Jahdae Barron, Jalen Gilbo didn't make a block, and Jahdae Barron didn't make a guy miss. That should have probably been pretty easy to do, one or the other. But nonetheless, Georgia won that game because they had 100 rushing yards in the second half. And that's on Texas, whatever happened in the run game and us not stopping them at that point. But it was from their running back and it was from their base running game. They had 100 rushing yards. That was the difference maker for them, and that's what won them the game. It wasn't Gunnar Stockton. So I do think that Notre Dame with their defense should be able to cause a lot of problems for him, and it could just come down to who makes less mistakes. Riley Leonard can make some mistakes too, but I'm going to go with the Golden Domers and the experienced quarterback versus the inexperienced quarterback in this game.
See, I'm on the opposite end of this. I'm riding with Georgia because of Gunnar Stockton. Not because of the player he is, but because of what it's going to do to their offense. I think they've been a run-first offense all year. I think that's what they should have been. I think you've got this quarterback that everybody thought would be the number one overall pick. He's this, big-time name, and I think they got cute on offense, and they tried to make him force-feed balls to receivers, and they just don't have receivers that are studs. They did run the ball extremely well once Gunnar got in the game. I think they're better than Notre Dame, right? Like, I look back at Notre Dame and, I think the best team that they've played is probably A&M in terms of dude on dude.
For sure.
And A&M just couldn't move the ball.
Yeah.
Georgia's going to excuse me. Georgia's going to move it.
That's the only way for Notre Dame to win, and I think is how they beat A&M. Like, it would have to be.
It's going to be like I just think Georgia. I think Georgia tries. They don't get cute. I think because of Stockton, they simplify the offense and they go we're just going to mash it in your face.
Yeah.
And I have success with that. And I think on defense, they're just still going to be faster than anything Notre Dame has seen. And I think it's a close game at halftime, but I think it overwhelms Notre Dame.
I do think that defensive speed is going to cause problems.
It's going to be an issue.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right, let's move on to the next one. Let's go with the game that's going to be tomorrow. Penn State and Boise State. We made our picks. Bo's leaning Boise State. You still staying with that pick, Bo, or you got any changes?
I made that very abundantly clear. I do think that whiteout is going to be a bloodbath, and Aston Genty is going to be the dictator and the emperor of the Nittany Lions. He will tame the lion, and Boise State takes it home. So there we go.
I'm sticking with too, Boise. Like I said on the live, and I want to keep my picks the same just for the purpose of our live audience and stuff like that. But my girlfriend's a Penn State law school girl and all that, and her whole family went to Penn State, so I've had to watch a lot of Penn State this year. You can run on Penn State, and I know it was week 1. I know it was early in the year. But they had Oregon on the ropes, and I know Penn State played Oregon close as well, but Oregon ran all over Penn State. And I just think Ohio State ran all over Penn State. And I think Boise State has a lane to control the clock, run that puppy 30-plus times with Ashton Genty, and win one playoff game before they get their ass whipped by whoever they play next.
Man,
How you feeling about it?
I really want to go with Boise. I really do. I think Penn State is going to beat them. Right? I just think Penn State's going to beat them. I think Genty's unbelievable. I just also know this, Boise didn't blow out hard. They had a lot of final scores that were blowouts. They played a lot of teams really close. Penn State's the second best team they played. They lost to the best team they played. I think they lose again.
Buddha, me and you both did something we said we would never do again. We both put our trust in the Penn State and James Franklin.
Yeah,
Which
it's not really a trust in James Franklin.
I,
It's just a
I
lack
did.
of trust in Boise State's roster. It's I don't like the X's and O's part of James Franklin is not the thing I'm making this based on. It's the Jimmies and Joes. It's the
Yeah,
Gent the stud, but I just feel like Penn State everywhere else is going to be as good or better.
yeah. No, I hear that. I hear it.
Trust me, I
That,
want Boise State. I will be pulling for Boise State. Just as the integrity of my pick, I'm going to pick Penn State.
yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah, I went Penn State Friday as well, and I was like, you know what? I'm gonna go against the grain. I'm gonna put my trust in them again. And SJ goes, "Don't do it." I was like, I just
No, they broke that Ohio State one broke me forever on until they get Franklin out of there. The light skinned Scott Van Pelt. They gotta like
I do think we get much better football though this round. I think almost
oh,
every game is going to be pretty good.
yeah,
oh,
absolutely. Let's move on to the next one before we get to the big one. We'll save Texas for last. We'll go Oregon, Ohio State. This is one that all of us were on a unanimous decision with Oregon on across the boards. Buddha, we just need your pick on it and your insight.
Yeah, I'm going to go the opposite way, y'all. I think Ohio State was the better team. I
I
think Ohio
picked
State was the better team the first time they played.
or did I pick Oregon?
You picked Oregon. We
Well,
all
that one I'll flip. Yeah.
So, well, I'm riding Ohio State. I think Ohio State was the better team the first time they played. That game was in Autzen, right? So we talked about A&M Stadium earlier in the pod about how it's loud, not hostile. Oregon's is a hostile environment.
Mm-hmm.
Outside of Will Howard shitting down his leg and having a brain fart moment, they probably would have won that game. I think they win. I think Ohio State's the most talented team left. Right? That's not me calling them to win the title. I just think they're the most talented team left. I think they've already seen it. I think they win this one.
No, I agree, and I actually do. I do remember I picked Oregon now, and it was basically you and Cole talked enough about your Oregon picks, and I hate Ryan Day and Ohio State so
I
much.
hate him too.
No, that's what it was. That's what it was. I bought into my Ryan Day hate, and I got drunk by the end of that TikTok. I accidentally took a piss on the live. So
yes,
y'all,
you
y'all talked me into the to the Oregon thing, but no, Ohio State is better. They were better the first time, and I think Buddha made an excellent point. This game isn't being played in Oxland. It's not in Oregon. I think that Ohio State can continue their momentum. They'll just be better, more physical, faster all around than Oregon is. Well, I don't know about faster, but they'll be better, and I think they win. And I don't think it's. I'm not gonna say I don't think it's close, like it's a blowout, but I think they can win this game by 10 points or two touchdowns.
I agree.
All right, let's get to the big one. But before we get to the big one, there's some notes I want to touch on for this game. Here's one thing that's been in the media a lot, and a lot of people talk about it. We talk about it and stuff too. Quinn will probably finish as the number 3 quarterback all time at Texas. If he wins, he'll get bumped to number 2. He'll pass Colt. As of right now, he's sitting at number 3, and there's no way he's not going to get number 3. What's that?
Is that in pass yards or did you rank them 1 through 3?
This is just rankings for Texas.
Okay.
And
Like passing yards, completions,
yeah,
touchdowns.
yeah. This is like stat wise as well too. The only he's probably the only quarterback that's number 3 at his school with a possibility to be the number 2 that people are talking about him transferring as he's going in to the quarterfinal round of the playoffs, which is insane. Like where else do you hear that? Hey, this kid's preparing for possibly playing for a national championship, but you get rumors coming out. Oh well, he's getting NIL offers and he's going to go somewhere else. The last thing on his mind is NIL deals right now. That's 100% got to be facts. Like I don't see how he's looking anywhere else when he's has a possibility to play for a national championship.
His draft stock, I'll say say where it's an insane world we live in now that's different than it's ever been before. And Quinn, unfortunately, has dealt with that probably more than anybody because not only is it already insane with the transfer market portal and all that, but he's had Arch Manning behind him, a quarterback from the first family of football, as I like to call the Mannings, you know? And so that's what's made it unique, to go on to the fact that it's kind of like this nationwide, but really at Texas, my whole life, the backup quarterback is always a phenomenon. You put Manning on the back of his jersey, he goes out there, does what he's already done on the field from the spring game to now. And, it shoots a steroid shot into that. But I do agree. I think that first and foremost, his draft stock, whatever you're looking at, fucking Front Row Sports or ToddMcShay.net, like it's the draft happens in April. They're never accurate. I had many people tell me that Byron Murphy and Bijan Robinson would not be first round draft picks. I'm not sitting here proclaiming Quinn's going to jump up to the first round, but he might. JJ McCarthy entering the playoffs wasn't a top 10 draft pick. He won the national championship. Things change. The GMs, the scouts get to the tape and they make their draft boards based off what they're looking for. Quinn Ewers is chasing a national championship right now, which is what he came to Texas to do. If he closes out and does that, there's zero chance he comes back. And then even if he doesn't, I think the likelihood is very small to none due to the fact that, one, I think Texas was the best place for him to grow his draft stock from schematics and how it fares to the NFL, the coach that you're playing with, the coach to the NFL, the respect that Sark has amongst his peers. Andy Reid and Kyle Shanahan have taken plays from Sark this year and run them in NFL games. And then, not to mention, he's been in school for 4 years. Like, I think his draft grades is great. And I do think he'll go at least in round 2. And if you're going in the first 2 rounds of the draft, you're making $10 million a year without endorsements. So nobody's going to be able to give you that. Maybe 1 or 2 schools. And I don't think he wants to come back to school. I don't think he wants to play for another school other than Texas. And that's not like the fan in me. That's like also understanding, Buddha, you know this as a former athlete. Like there is a fatigue that comes after a while of like wanting to go to the next thing too. And I just kind of think that it all comes into play. But nonetheless, I think Texas, Notre Dame, Georgia, all these schools, they'll all have transfers when the playoffs ends. And we'll probably have some guys that contributed to transfer. But right now, I think it's a week to week. You're locked in. I don't think Quinn and his family are out negotiating IL deals. I don't think they have to.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I agree with that. I don't think the chances are zero, but like I think there's a world where it could happen. I think a lot of it's going to come down to back behind the scenes conversations on where they think he fits in the draft. I think he's a late first rounder, early second rounder. I think he's the most pro ready quarterback in the class, so he could skyrocket in the class. Like he could be a guy that a team looks at and goes like look what Penix did, right? Like everybody was like Penix is going to be a second rounder. The Falcons went, he's our guy. I want him at 8.
Yep.
Right? Like I think Quinn's got that type of deal where like he's not for everybody, but somebody's going to see him and go, this guy's the leader of my franchise. I want him at 13. Go get him. Like
100%, dude. Even Mahomes, that shocked everybody.
Exactly.
When Andy Reid drafted Patrick Mahomes. It was a shocker. The Quinn, and I mentioned all that stuff about Shadur. Quinn is going to be the best pre-draft workout guy, pre-draft interview guy in this. And that's going to matter a lot.
Yeah, I think you also like you brought up like how many times have we ever seen a guy who's top 3 at his school and passing and all these things? The elephant in the room is Arch, right? Like if the backup quarterback was Malik Murphy, like you wouldn't hear any of this, right? Like the elephant in the room is Arch, right? Like oh, like that, like that's the elephant in the room. Like that's the reason is because he's now competing against perfection, and somehow the national media and a lot of Texas fans have anointed Arch as the face of perfection without him ever really showing that. He showed that he's crazy talented, but like I think the idea of Arch is that he's going to be better than his uncles. So they look at Quinn and they go, when he makes a mistake, they go, well, we've got a Manning that's more talented than his uncles who are Hall of Famers, and one of them's the best to ever do it, arguably. Like, so I think that's why you get these conversations. But no, I don't think he's out there hunting NIL deals right now. Like, obviously not. He's trying to win a title.
The next thing
I'll say, like well, there's 2 things. Like you said about the Arch thing, it does kind of suck. Like he loved Texas his entire life, and it's just like almost like he's been searching to be loved back. And I've
Yeah.
said that multiple times. That's kind of just sad to watch in lifetime. But the second thing is his family. If you followed him even from like the transfer to here, they're like very, very close lit, tight circled. Nothing gets out on them. And if you watch it, there's two guys that have reported anything on Quinn Ewers since he's been at Texas. It's Pete Thamel and Anwar Richardson. If it doesn't come from one of those guys, I don't like. I think it's nothing.
Yeah, absolutely agree. Both of them are great at their job too. Anwar's a pretty good guy. I've met him a few times. Um,
Anwar's I've had some shots on Anwar.
the other things I want to get into is the press clippings that are coming out of Arizona State's locker room. First, their quarterback says he's going to show that he's the best quarterback on the field come New Year's Day. And then what came out today in the press conference, y'all's boy Scattaboo, who probably made the biggest blunder of his life by saying, "There's no one out there that can stop me." Brother, 5 teams have kept you under 100 yards. And those 5 teams don't touch what Texas's defense has done against the run game whatsoever. So for a statement like that, and possibly your university's biggest game coming up, and this is the second time you've said something like that, is not the best. You're just adding more fuel to the fire. You're playing the best defense you've played, arguably the best defense in the nation. And honestly, what it's going to come down for ASU to win this game is he's going to have to turn into whatchamacallit.
I don't
See,
care if you Bo
he's gonna
Jack.
he's gonna have to come in this. He's
Bo
gonna
Jack.
Now look, I'll say this, and y'all are playing against Arizona State. You want your fucking white running back to talk like that. Like you want your run. You want your run. He's not like you want a guy that's going to get the ball 25 times to be like I'm the best player on the field. Like I think like I think if the tables were if he was on Texas, you'd be like that. I want a guy like that. Like get like
Well,
it's now look now you set yourself up for a pedestal. He's gonna be on a pedestal when the game ends regardless. If they pull off the upset, that clip is everywhere, and he goes into being he's better than Ginty. That conversation will take place.
yeah.
If you
Here's
lose, you'll be on the pedestal, and they'll go, "Look at this clown."
yeah. Here's another outlier about it, and then I'll let you go. Shoney, I didn't mean to cut you off. Here's the other outlier on it. So Scatterby says no one can stop him, but no one's not only got Texas is going to have to stop him in the run game. Their pass game is now dependent upon Scatterby. Their number one wide receiver is out and not playing in the game. Their number two wide receiver is Scatterby. So, like I said, he has to be CMC come game time, or it's not going to get it done because no one else on the team has got
even
it.
CMC wouldn't get it done on that team against this defense. He's doing it. Here's the thing I'll say, because I kind of agree with your point, Buddha. But my thing is, one time the say it, believe it, achieve it thing, cool. You did it one time, nobody was ready for it. You do it a second time, you double down. The quarterback doubled down. A couple other players have doubled down. The dude that transferred that was buried on the depth chart, Zach Swanson, he's doubled down. That's bad PR. That's you guys have never been here before. You don't know what you're stepping into. You don't know what you're going to be looking across on the other side of the field. Bo Scattaboo and this whole team sounds like a bunch of Scottsdale West Coast douchebags that hasn't played anybody from the South. They haven't seen an SEC team. They went over the Big 12. They weren't expected to win, and they're gotten a little bit too big for their britches. I said this last week. I'll say it again this week. Texas has 2 interior defensive linemen that are going to get drafted high. They got 2 edge guys that are going to get drafted within the first 3 rounds of the draft. That doesn't mention the best guys on the team that aren't old enough to get drafted yet. They got the middle linebacker that I think is the best defensive player in America, in Anthony Hill Jr., an All-American safety and a Thorpe Award winner. Andrew Makuba, I said it last week. I think he might be the best defensive player in the secondary. And he didn't win the Thorpe or get All-American. Texas pushed Clemson around because they were light in the ass. Clemson played 2 small edges against Texas, and we had like 270 rushing yards on outside zone alone because of that. Arizona State doesn't have a single defensive lineman over 300 pounds. This Texas team has like 12 offensive linemen over 300 pounds. Like 12 guys on the roster. The entire defensive line is over 300 pounds, except for Simmons. Like, they're all big, badass guys. The number one run defense in the country. Bo Scalaboo can have the biggest heart in the world. He can be from dog shit Sacramento and be a tough guy. He could be the second coming of Nate Diaz and Bo Jackson combined together. I don't care. Like, this matchup is god awful. I think it's going to be one of the biggest blowouts in the playoffs. I think whoever got Arizona State, whether it was Georgia that got them, Oregon that got them, Ohio State that got them, whoever got them was going to dust them. I watched that Big 12 championship game, and that's the first thing I thought. Winner of this game is going to get dog walked. Like, the winner of that game pretty much got dog walked every year outside of last year. So, I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe Scatabo is Bo Jackson. Maybe that quarterback is better than Quinn Ewers. Maybe they don't need big defensive linemen to go against one of the best offensive lines in the country. And maybe they go pull off one of the upsets of the century. But I think it's belt to ass. I think it's humiliating. And I think the Big 12 is going to have a hard time getting two teams into this 12-team playoff again.
I'm picking Texas, right? I expect Arizona State to roll out a Kentucky style of game plan. I think their method is going to be. I think they're going to look at it. The best defense they have is not giving the ball to Texas. I think they're going to try to milk the clock. Levitt's a little bit of a weapon with his legs. So they've got two guys back there that can make plays. Scatabo is clearly probably the second best running back in the country behind Genty. I think he has some success, right? Like, I think he has some success. I think Texas. I think this game at halftime could be a game where it's like 21-10, and maybe Arizona State makes it 21-10 with like a minute left in the second quarter, and it's like, I think this game finishes at 3 touchdowns, right? Like, I think it's like a 45-24 final. I think it's something. I think it's a 3-possession game at the end of it. I think the only way, and I've said this all year, I think the only way Texas doesn't win this game by a multi-score margin is if they have stupid turnovers. Again, I said, like, this is my thing all year, and I'll say it as many games as Texas is going to play until the end of this thing, whether it's the national title this week or just one more. Like, Texas can beat anyone by 2 touchdowns, including themselves.
Yeah.
They are everyone's biggest threat, including themselves. And like, if Quinn early, this is the worst case scenario. You got a team that's yapping in Arizona State with a guy that thinks he's the best player in the world. Again, I like that out of my running back. If I'm like a little school, I want a guy that thinks. The worst case scenario is Texas gets the ball first, Quinn throws a pick, Scatabo scores immediately. Then all of a sudden, that guy who's yapping starts to feel like I'm actually him. That again, but
Yeah.
if Texas doesn't shoot themselves in the foot, I don't think Arizona State can. I don't think they can man-to-man beat Texas at anything, right? Like, I think the only player that you would look at and go, Scatabo's better than any running back Texas is going to roll out. And that's not saying Texas running backs are bad. I just think Scatabo is, I think it's Genty than him.
Yeah, I know. Like, I hear that. But I just think, like, all the guys I mentioned, I think they share the same confidence as Scatabo. They're just smart enough not to get fuel to the other team. I think that we're looking at a LSU Oklahoma situation here in the playoffs, 2019. Like, I think that it. No, I do. I think that's what we're looking at. I think that name 4 defensive players, name 3 defensive players at Arizona State. Like, I think, like I said, with LSU and a lot, one thing that the postseason does, and it's the SEC's calling card, is it really exposes the difference in some of this shit.
It shows the separation big time. It shows
I think that's just
athlete on athlete. That's where Texas has got a massive advantage. Is athlete on athlete, right? Like, I'm intrigued as a guy who likes Scatabo, and I hope he's a good NFL player. I'm excited to see what his contact balance is like against NFL players, which he'll be up against 5 to 7 legitimate NFL starting defensive players in 6 years, like guys that'll be like, our defense is good because we have this cat on it. Like, I want to know, like, how does he look when he gets hit against one of those guys? When Anthony Hill hits him, does he still show incredible contact balance? Like, that's the kind of stuff
Mhm.
So I don't know. I think Texas wins by 3 touchdowns though. Like that's where I'm at on it.
Yeah, I think we all picked Texas. Bo, you staying with Texas, or you going with your boy Scatterboo?
Absolutely not. I can't roll with the dog here. I'm already rolling with one in Boise State, but no, I think it's kind of a foregone conclusion. You know, Arizona State had their little Cinderella run, got a bye out of the first round of the playoffs because they won their conference championship, and I think this is the end of the road for them. So go ahead and start queuing boys to men and get them home. So
I'll
Q
say, I think like SJ said, like he thinks this could be LSU Oklahoma a few years ago. My one reason why I think like even if it could get there, it just won't get there. Sark's kind of known to kind of pocket some stuff. Like I think
Mhm.
if it's out of hand in the third quarter, he'll just pocket some shit. He'll just
Yeah.
be like, man, there's zero reason. Especially if he's manhandling him, he'll just be like, just keep manhandling him. There's zero reason for me to show my hand.
Yeah, you got Ohio State or Oregon on.
Yeah, like, there's zero reason for me to roll out anything. Like we'll just continue to hand the ball off and continue to
Yeah,
stop. Like, and we'll get this thing to 45. It'll be 45-24, whatever, 45-20, and we'll just go about our way healthy and ready to play next week.
yeah. He'll end the game like he did against I forgot what team. Whenever he had like I think it was like 11 straight run plays in a row. Like that's how he'll end the game. We'll just be like
Yeah,
run it out. But yeah, I think that's all we got for y'all. Me and SJ will be going live probably before the Texas game. We might be going live during the game and kind of talking some shit and having some fun with you guys during the game. But we'll see. We'll probably do like we've been doing and doing before the playoff games. We'll jump on tomorrow. Buddha, if you want to jump on live, we'll go on before the LSU game. Kind of hype it up, go on at halftime, and cover the end of the game too as well. If you're down
I
for
can work tomorrow. So people who don't know, this is not my day job. This is not any of our day jobs.
it. whatsoever. I'll be done by 3, so I'll be able to tune in and have some fun with it. But other than that, I think that's all we got for y'all. We'll see y'all on the lives when we roll with them, and then we'll see y'all Friday on the live as well. There anything else for them, fellas?
nope,
See
don't
ya.
think so.
All right, man. Y'all have a good one. Hook 'em.
First 12 ounces. First 12 ounces, yeah. First 12 ounces. First 12 ounces, yeah. Y'all better listen up. This sports talk talking tough. So if you got a cup, go on and raise it up. I'll raise one with you as we talk about the sports. It's raining stats and rumors. Let us give you the report. This is first 12 ounces. First 12 ounces, yeah. First 12 ounces.